And welcome back for the final game of week number 2 here in the PCS Spring Split. I am Pyrotechnics, he is Nightstar, and here to close it out. We are so excited for this final game with the undefeated squads, but I want to take a moment to thank our wonderful sponsors, CTBC Bank and Caliber, for making the PCS possible. Now, Nightstar, like I said, this one's going to be a real Thunderdome. CTBC Flying Oyster, one of our new squads with some familiar faces for sure, coming into this one and flying high at 5-0, but Deep Cross Gaming showing a mastery of the double enchanter build and just running wild with an undefeated score as well. They are their opponents. These two teams will clash. It does feel like we are going to be in for a wild ride.
It's going to be a very exciting game. Of course, for DCG, the excitement really happens in the draft phase, whereas for the side of CFO, it more so happens in-game with how much firepower that they do bring to the table. These two rosters I've kind of dubbed like the brains and the brawn of former J team, whereas DCG, they've gotten all the brains with Hana, Woody, Nestea.
Nestea's Galaxy brand, man.
Yeah, they're the rotational pieces. They make the macro moves, whereas CTBC, they got mission and rest, the big firepower tools and what got them to a lot of wins, and the main engine to getting those victories on J team last year. So
not to mention Gemini. I mean, I think Gemini is probably the best jungler in the league since River's departure, and he's certainly been making a name for himself on this on this rift. And to top it off, Atlan and Koala, we considered them to be the potential weak side of this team. Absolutely not. They have popped off with some ridiculous score lines. Atlan has played it incredibly well. He's done the stock standard, but he's done it to a T, and he's shown that he can hang with everybody. It's hard to find a weak side or a weak point on this team. They really are like an oyster in the shell, except they come out swinging rather than staying hidden. This is a team that is not to be messed with.
Absolutely. And I mean, you would still say Atlan, Koala are the weak points if you are going to target a lane on the side of CTBC Flying Oyster, which makes it interesting to see if the side of Deep Cross Gaming, if they do go for the double or the Smite Enchanter lane, whether or not the Bard comes into play, because I certainly think Bard will get banned away very, very easily. Do they go to the next one down? Do they go for that Janna, or do they have an even deeper enchanter pool to reach into to try and force the strategy? Whereas now we're going to see the Deep Cross Gaming roster: Leaky, Hana, Nestea as the top side, and then Stado, Woody in that bottom half. When it comes to the lane that you're looking to exploit, if you are on the side of CFO, I would say you really want to focus on that top lane. And it comes down to Leaky trying to abuse that matchup, because you have the best top laner in the league in Rest.
That is the opportunity there for CTBC. On the other side, I do think Kriskata is a very hot rookie right now, and he's paired with an experienced support in Woody. Definitely have looked good. Admittedly, some of those games he's had the Zeri, so maybe not getting that is probably going to change things a little bit. But we will be comparing our mid laners, Mission and Nestea. You got to talk about the experience level, especially on Mission's side right now, that both these players are bringing to their teams. And just comparing the stats right now, putting up some high-flying numbers, but then again, shouldn't be all that surprising given the fact that they are both, that they are both undefeated. But of course, the damage percentage, you might be scratching your head at that, and that's because Nestea takes Bard top Smite, and that's okay. We still love him.
Very interesting stat comparison here. Of course, first blood percentage, Nestea also has a very high percentage in that because of the fact he is roaming down, making plays, and then the wards per minute. Again, when you're playing a Smite support, you're going to be getting your sight stone, so obviously you're going to have a lot more wards per minute in that regard. But it's really just a clash of styles. Mission, he wants to farm up, be strong, get to that first big team fight, and really pop off from there. For Nestea, it's really everything but that. He wants to attack much before that first team fight and accumulate such a lead that later on, the rest of his squad can kind of just snowball from there.
Well, we are into picks and bans, and after today, we will have only one defeated team in the PCS. So far, focus is on the Diana, the Tryndamere, the Renekton all banned away. Following through, DCG get rid of the Zeri and the Gwen, which makes a lot of sense, but of course, they get rid of the Orianna. This is a mission respect ban, and it gives Gemini the opportunity to insta-lock the Xin Zhao.
They immediately target a lot of those CFO champ pools with the Orianna, with the Gwen. I like that look there. And DCG are the ones to go ahead ban away the Zeri, which is very interesting because CFO have banned Zeri in every single one of their games, whether it's blue side or red side. So very interesting that DCG go ahead and ban it away themselves, especially on that first phase. But now we're looking at that first rotation. And it is, of course, the Jinx Lee Sin to match the Philios Xin Zhao. I think these are pretty standard, as standard goes for a lot of these openings. And there we go, CFO lock in the Syndra. It's the next pick down. It's really nice into a lot of these low range compositions, but
Nestea.
I mean, DCG haven't shown a whole lot, and that allows them to go for this Veigar pick. And I think Veigar really skyrocketing in popularity lately, and it just comes down to the fact that his laning is really solid. And then when he comes to these mid-game team fights, he's so disruptive with his cage, and later on as the game progresses, he just scales like none other.
Yeah, just really gaining all the stacks he possibly can. And of course, this being an SD special, for all the talk of all the big brains and all of the crazy drafts we could be seeing out of the Deep Cross, they've definitely been able to play their cards very close. And I like what we're seeing out of this composition. It kind of just says, all right, I think I can go toe-to-toe with Mission right now. And Nestea, you got to admire the confidence that he's bringing to this team. Into the ban phase 2, we see a couple of supports taken off, the Tom Kench, and of course the Nautilus. Also following up at the top side, no Graves this game, as everyone is just trying to suss out what the remaining power picks will be.
See what the last ban is. I expect it to be yet another bot lane ban, but they instead throw it onto the Camille. So
okay.
Leona
try to put Leaky on the back foot.
Still left available, although Leona might not be the ideal pick in this composition because it is a champion that kind of overcommits forward. And when you do have a Jinx and a Veigar, you kind of want to play things a little bit slower.
Here's something we don't see all that often in the top lane right now. The Gnar comes in for Leaky, so that's an interesting choice.
So Gnar is a champion that can still build the Hullbreaker, which is, you know,
every champion can build a Hullbreaker, but I get what you're saying.
It is the item of choice right now. It is the flavor of the month. And CFO, they'll go ahead lock in that Leona. A little bit to be expected there. They want to be a little bit more aggressive with their picks. And okay, it looks like there's going to be a hover on this GP pick. So Rest has traditionally also been a default Gnar player when it comes to just trying to lock in something blind or a lot of these answers up top lane because of the really 1v1 skill check potential up there. And more often than not, Rest does come ahead. I think Leaky, as someone who's been played behind Rest, also picked up that tendency, and that's why we see that pick come out here. And it will be a last pick of Alistar, interestingly enough, so has the potential to play back and be a little bit more defensive if he wants to, but also has the ability to dive forward and be incredibly tanky with that ultimate.
Yeah, there is some versatility there, but we aren't seeing a ton of Alistar here in this league right now. So this composition that Deep Cross are bringing out definitely mixes things up a little bit, going back almost like a throwback to Meta's past in that top and in that support. However, maybe it's going to be enough here to throw CTBC off their game. On the opposite side, as CTBC have set up for a comp that certainly favors them, that certainly favors their style, having to pick blind in a couple of roles, they should be happy with what they've accomplished. They already managed to have a lot of comfort picks and champions that can open up a lot of damage. And it's an exciting CTBC comp. It seems like they don't vary too much. He called them the muscle, and well, what do muscles do? They flex. We're going to see if they're going to be able to do that this game against the side of Deep Cross, who have certainly come prepared as well. Nightstar, looking at these two comps, who do you like better? They're both 5-0 teams.
Yeah, both of these compositions are incredibly fun here. But, I mean, I love the backline combination coming in from DCG, although I do love this gangplank pick here, being able to create such a really oppressive zone to try and play around. I think with these teams are very evenly matched when it comes to draft, but I do give the edge over to CFO because of their ability to have those small edges when it comes to micro plays.
Yeah, and that might be all the difference, right? This could be a game of inches going forward. I'm curious to see if Deep Cross can step up a little bit into this and take a surprise win, or I guess anything would be a surprise because both these teams haven't lost yet, so somebody has to go down at the end of it all. I'm really curious how it's all going to turn out. You know, some things we kind of expected, the Jinx Aphelios flip, the Xin Zhao versus the Lee Sin, those are standard in this case. And of course, these two mid lane champions, pretty standard for these two players. And that's the lane matchup I really want to keep my eye on is Nestea going to outplay Mission? Because that is going to be insane.
Yeah, and I think the big thing going forward aside of CFO is that they have the ability to play through mid and bot lane in this instance. They have decent setup coming in from both. You have a little bit longer range of catch potential with this Syndra over the Veigar. Although if you are going to be running into the Veigar, that's where he gets a lot of his value. So that'll be exciting to see when it comes to some of these mid-game team fights. But for the most part, through Syndra, you also are going to be able to get a lot of mid priority. So we'll look for CFO to play around that mid priority and try and look for big plays early on around this Xin pick.
It looks like we are waiting for the game to load up and us to get onto the Rift, and there it goes. The final game for week number 2, and boy, is it going to be a slobber knocker. Brains versus Brawn, who's going to come out on top, and who is going to be handed their first loss on the split? Two new organizations coming into this league, snapping up, the power players, and Nestea rocking some very fashionable jammies.
I think you're pretty familiar with this skin.
Yeah, as I am an avowed Yordle spammer in TFT, and everyone knows it at this point. It's the only kind of Veigar I recognize.
Interestingly enough, with the different skin, we also get to see a different summoner choice. Usually we've seen a fair amount of Predator when it comes to the Veigar. This time around, he's gone for Unsealed Spellbook, which may allow him to survive that level 6 burst. Getting that exhaust or barrier or heal might make the difference in making sure he survives some of these traits.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty interesting micro variation there. Now,
interesting.
CFO, CFO are really taking aggressive stances, and they've punished in 3 different roles right now. As Hana moves down towards the bottom side and starts off on his Gromp. He just says, "Hey, give up. Let me lane. Let me lane." Certainly not taking a moment to waste and getting aggressive before the minions even hit the Rift. And that is the long leash there for Woody and Kriskata. It does mean Atlan and Koala can sit there in the brush and wait and bait at the moment. And I think they might try to get the jump on him with the fast level 2 or level 1. That's not going to happen, though.
Leaky is trying to trade his health bar. He wants to avoid that auto as much as possible against Rest, because that's the big thing. You get that extra burn from your passive, which makes the trade a whole lot better in your favor. And right now it's just them trading auto attacks. Eventually Rest will win out on that trade because he does have triple potions along with biscuits. As the Gnar, you're not going to go for the biscuits because it gives mana. That wastes like half your stats there in that case. So eats the barrel chain as well.
That was so fast from Rest.
There we go. This is what we want Rest to do. This is what we expect to see from our best top laner. And Leaky concedes. Has to concede level 2. Hopefully, I mean, he's going to hit level 2 shortly, but it's just a matter of, it feels like you've already lost so much of this lane already.
Yeah, this is going to be a little bit of a tough one for Leaky right now. And, you know, obviously the experience gap is there too. And Leaky's opted into this matchup, but I think we should start to see the pushback. Nestea, he himself is getting pushed back. Does manage to waddle away from the scout of the week. Bit of a rare miss from Mission on that one, but you know, Nestea is he's a slippery yordle for sure.
Yeah, all 3 of these lanes are going to be lanes to watch, which is not something you would say, but Hana making this move up in his top lane as Rest is very pushed up.
Ad burns a flash for pretty much nothing. That was a really good trade there for Deep Cross.
Very, very well done there, taking advantage of where that wave was positioned. Couldn't get that wave crashed, and because Gemini was bot side, he had to do it himself, and that ends up having to pay the flash there in that instance. It does mean Gemini has a pretty sizable individual lead, as he is camp up here in this instance, and will be able to get the double scuttle. Also looking to seal away Raptors, perhaps, as he's going to wait in the bush. He's going to get a goon.
Spy Hana. Oh, waiting and baiting, and there we go. The jig is up. He was in your jungle all along. Koala is coming up here as well, and Mission was actually caught out in the Vigard cage. Otherwise, that could have been a little worse for Hana, potentially. But he's out of there. Unfortunately, has to give up his camp.
Yeah, good posturing coming in from Nestea to really stifle the rest of that play from going south in that instance. And it will just be Hana having to concede a lot of the jungle. And that's a nice lead gained by Gemini with the golden EXP.
Oh yeah, it's a good start. You did talk about how this every lane is one to watch, and I think that's very true. It's not a normal statement to make. Usually you want to identify 1 or 2, but I feel like there is just so much explosive potential everywhere here. Up top side, things have settled down just a little bit, and Leaky has built up a big lead off the back of Hana's earlier intervention. But at the same time, you can see this mid lane seriously pushed in for Nestea. Hana could try to make a play on it. Mission, you know, he has flash, but no other inbuilt escapes. He would have to rely on a scout of the week, and there's the cage. Scout of the week does land, but he's sitting on the outside and waits just in time to follow through, and the flash is followed. Oh! Mission, is he going to get away? No! That's first blood to the Vigar, and Nestea says, my 2v2 is better than yours.
I mean, when it comes to mid-jungle 2v2 against a mid-support, I think the mid-jungle wins that every single time. They're able
it's a little stacked, to be fair.
They are able to get the wave crashed in, and while Mission doesn't miss a whole lot, at least it resets the wave state. And I mean, he just has to flash way earlier. The fact that he just doesn't respect it is, I mean, perhaps he wasn't expecting Mission to be there, but there's really no reason for Nestea to just drop the baby cage like that without a reason besides someone else coming over.
Yeah. Still, though, that's the play. You know, want to try and shut down Mission. Definitely one of the biggest threats on this squad. And Gemini is going to take advantage of the back timings to start off the Dragon, so CFO will get something for their trouble, bringing Atlan and Mission as well. This is pretty telegraphed, but there's not a whole lot that DCG can do to stop it. All the same, though, I think they will be pretty happy with First Blood and the tempo. Again, the swing up topside was so huge here. And on the back timers, you see the difference in items as well, with Leaky just coming out ahead after that earlier intervention and keeping Rest on the back foot.
Yeah, and now he does, he still has Flash while Rest does not, and that's why DCG are looking for a roam play up into this top side. They have more than enough lockdown for it.
Yeah, that's going to be the Gnar against the wall. The barrels and the cannons do not do enough, and they just walk through the fire. Cool guys don't need to look at explosions, and 2-0 for DCG. So far, Brains are winning in this one, Nightstar.
They are. Indeed, they are. And it was a little bit telegraphed, I will say, from DCG that they wanted to make a play, but the answer's coming.
Yeah, although they turned the damage on, a great flame
that's a
chomper
reset.
use. Can they actually do more? The unleashed power is going to be enough to finish the job. But Woody's still threatening. This is going to be at least a plate or two. I feel like trading that, though, 1 for 1, that's not bad on a dive. Meanwhile, Rest is not going to get a whole lot of rest in this one. Hana and Leaky, big Meganar, ground pound, good night.
Yeah, and this follow-up kill on Rest is absolutely devastating. Because now he's going to lose even more waves to that tower. He's going to lose a lot of EXP. And this Gnar is going to be incredibly annoying to deal with, especially now that he's probably has Hull Breaker completed, which means he can just continue to do a lot of this dirty farming because he gets the extra resistances. And I mean, Rest knows all about dirty farming, and he's about to get done dirty coming in from this Gnar.
Yeah, by the way, while that was all happening, DCG actually were able to, not cleanly, but sneak away the Rift Herald, but they do lose Woody in exchange for it. I think they will be willing to take that trade and have the sacrificial cow in that case, but yeah, at this point, Hana is kind of like Leaky's lane support. You know, he's been sacrificing a lot of his own jungle in order to do this. He's still at, like, even on levels with Gemini, but he's just not been able to keep up in the farm game. But he doesn't need to, right? I mean, the longer this game goes, it's going to favor the Zins out anyways from an item and stat standpoint. But Hana is just dead set on helping Leaky shut down Rest. Delay and deny this game playing. They're going to try to do the same thing to Mission, neutralizing 2 of those threats. Then what have you got? It's Atlan. It's just the Aphelios. And of the 3 carries on this squad, he certainly is the weak point. As we mentioned, he's been stepping up, but still, I really like this game plan from Deep Cross. They have done their homework. They're playing the 3D chess right now as best as they can.
Yeah, and the big thing here, as we get to see Leaky actually establish a freeze, that'll be absolutely critical here and just deny more away from this gangplank, is the fact that they've identified what are the 2 carries that can possibly play the game and make things difficult for us. It's the Gangplank and the Syndra. They have the range. They have the abilities to deal with us, but when it comes to this Aphelios, there's almost no way for him to play the game against Jinx and Veigar. So we need to worry less about him. Of course, he has that pop-off potential still. It's not like he's a 0 damage threat, but the opportunity to capitalize and really snowball this game off of stifling those 2 carries first just really skyrockets.
Absolutely. Going to be able to cut the wave down a little bit as it pushes in. That forces the back. No opportunity for CFO to make a play down bot, and Hana was there waiting in the wings. They need to use this Herald, though. It's been a little bit of time that they want to go ahead and put that one on the ground. Looks like... where is Hana on the map right now? Looks like he had gone back. Oh no, he's going to stay with the team right now. I think they can drop this, take advantage of the timing. This is actually really smart. They're going to get some plates off this for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be... Okay, so Cressada actually... So interestingly enough, he goes in, gets the 1 auto, which guarantees the fact that he will get the gold split with Hana. And it also means he doesn't have to stick around. Overstay his welcome in that instance. 20 seconds until that next dragon does spawn. Leaky getting more damage down. Hull Breaker gets some harass down before the Banganar expires. So this is all in all really, really nice from DCG. They've set themselves up. Yes, the gold lead isn't like crazy or anything, but that's credit to CFO being able to lane very well, and that's what we expect this roster to do as well.
Yeah, identifying the threats and trying to neutralize them. Now Gemini's going to try and force the issue here, but the baby cage comes down, and Gemini unfortunately just can't do much. He can't break through those bars. That just denies it. I mean, it's an interesting bit of CC that the Veigar packs in his kit. It's a very frustrating champion kit to play against. Now, CFO will be able to take out this dragon, but they may not get away with it cleanly. Here's Cressada looking to try for the snipe. That would be very optimistic. Nestea sniffs too far forward, and that's the opportunity. Whoa, he flashes the wall! And he may not escape as Mission follows him forward. There's the cage. He tries to limp away, and I think he's going to do it. Woody, meanwhile, is also tanking up, and
Hana?
Hana is going to sacrifice his life for the cause to Atlan.
Well,
I still think that's maybe not worth because he didn't have to, but Nestea got out.
yeah, that was absolutely not worth, because if they had gotten the dragon, then you can make the argument, right? You go 1-for-1 dragon for kill. But in this instance, the side of CFO, they were the ones to secure themselves that dragon, which
Leaky.
means, oh wow, that damage.
I think Rest is getting angry.
And that is without the Trinity Force completed. We're going to see the replay. It is just going to be them getting that smite. And I mean, DCG are just late to the party. They're not grouped up. And I mean, this escape from Nestea, very, very good. But he does have to expend a lot to get out. Stopwatch, heal, flash, everything had to be tossed out. And then Hana goes for a very optimistic, per se.
I think Hana forgot that he'd been spending most of the early game just like hand-holding Leaky. Like, there are Lee Sins who can get that execution, but you are not one of them right now.
Yeah, the state of the game does not allow you to one-shot the Philios right now. It is not very easy.
Yeah. Well, even the brains make mistakes sometimes. That is going to be advantage CFO, but the gold game is dead even, and it is the Hextech Rift. Oh, it's so fun to see.
Yeah, going for an angle here. We'll see if okay. Hana now spotted out. Will most likely kind of diffuse the play here, although it might also force CFO to just back off of this turret, as they do have level 6 on Woody.
Well, they want to get Atlan. That's going to be the headbutt pulled, and the knock-up for days. They just take him down. Nestea was waddling in as well, but meanwhile, you've got Leaky being fired down on top. He has no Meganar, no Flash, and no health bar as he's taken out by Rest. A little bit of turnabout is fair play there in the top side.
Risky teleport.
That is a little risky for sure. Mission did not opt to ult. I think he was afraid of Nestea's R button.
I mean, he didn't quite have lethal there because of the fact that it is Merc Treads coming out onto Nestea, so the extra magic resistance is going to be enough to keep him alive, but at the same time, it takes a very large chunk of damage, and it's really just an exchange of sides. DCG attacking that bottom half of the map, and Leaky left as sacrifice, but now going to play in this mid lane. They will disengage as that Gangplank ultimate does come down. Very long cooldown expended, and we get to see the replay on how this top lane went down.
No vision at all right now. Leaky overplayed his hand.
He gets a little overly excited in this instance. Didn't have the backup from his team, and a nice flash forward from Gemini guarantees the knockup, and that guarantees the kill as well.
It was still a little bit closer than I think CFO would have been happy with, but at the same time, they do manage to start turning it. Trinity Forces come in for the Gangplank. And of course, they do have the Dragon Stack, right? This is going to be a Hextech Rift, so this is a really good one for a team that wants to dish the damage. You're going to get that extra chain slow, the old static Shiv style ability. And that might make it a little easier to hunt down some of these deep cross members. It's a very important soul to try and stack on. Shelly popped a little bit out in the river, but this should be enough to take tower.
Yep.
And there it goes.
It will be enough to delete the tower. Nestea will be able to answer on the
Second
flip
charge?
side, but they don't have an answer for the second charge. Now, do CFO try and continue to push the issue?
I think he's trying to stack Narbar. Although he doesn't have it in time, this is a little bit scuffed. He's going to back away.
Doesn't have flash.
He's going to try to just throw Big Ben at him, I think. That's enough to send a message.
It's another one. Do they continue to chase? That's the question.
3 on Gemini.
Hits 3 for 3. You know, downtown,
Meanwhile,
not bad, but Rest able to answer on the flip side.
Yeah, so basically the job of both these top laners is going to vary a little bit. Rest is going to be able to be involved in lanes while not actually being in lanes, thanks to that cannon barrage, but Nestea trying to stay safe from Friscata. Ooh, a little bit of a risky run here. Pops the cleanse, that's why you pack it as a jinx. But it does open up CFO to start on this Baron. Oh, Hana takes the Hex Gate?
Sure, if he wanted to go there.
He left Nestea out to dry. That's a dangerous situation for Deep Cross here. They're limping away. Meanwhile, Rest has cut them off. And the barrels are there. This is going to be dangerous unless they can take him out first. They do actually pop the barrel.
Cut off?
I think Rust is going to die, but Hana does as well. There's no way they can contest this dragon right now. Nestea's still trying to do the work for Skada. Got the kill credit on that one, but can they clean this up right now? Gemini with the Crescent Guard. It's Atlan that takes down Woody. Chris Skada and Leaky has Meganar. Koala. There he goes.
I don't think he can chase, though.
They can't take Dragon. That's the critical thing.
Yeah, and I mean, when all is said and done, it's an even trade, 2 for 2. And it means we get to have a rerun of this exact fight because no one's able to take the dragon, which means that objective is still up. And that means both teams are interested in trying again.
This was...
I think he wanted to auto the ward, and as a result, he autoed the portal. A little bit tragic.
Oh, here we go again, by the way, down bot. DCG secure that fast. Get the dragon.
Yeah, they just turn on it immediately. CFO not quite there to respond. And it's really unfortunate because as we look in the replay, you can also see how many blue wards they invested into this fight to try and set up for this dragon. And it's going to kind of come down all for naught. As Crisada, he gets the reset and understands he can't go any further. Leaky almost baits himself in.
Just a little bit, but they were able to hold on for the time being.
Okay.
Okay. A lot of damage
coming
out of Hana in that one. Yeah, actually really impressive damage numbers on Hana considering he set himself a little behind earlier. So as we get closer to this 20-minute mark, the game kind of swings on a knife's edge. It's a 500 gold lead for CFO, but Deep Cross have managed to cut off the Drake stack. They've secured the first Hex tech. We could be in for quite some more game yet here, Nightstar.
Yeah, and this Hex-Tech Dragon is pretty spicy when it comes to everyone in this game. Because of the extra ability haste, it means that Nestea can continue spamming out the baby cages. Also, a lot of his abilities are pretty low cooldown once he gets more and more levels, so he's going to be spamming out the really all his damage abilities along with that Event Horizon very, very readily. And then the extra attack speed will help out Cristada in just pumping out more damage. He's got a very, very high damage build, and the extra attack speed, of course, will help him get that first reset.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Very valuable dragons to keep securing, and both teams certainly wanting to pick them up, so we'll have to keep an eye down in that side of the pit for the rest of the game. Baron also hit the Rift now. But at the same time, nobody is going to be rushing the big purple worm. Taking a look at the item spread, just about everybody's on their mythics at this point. But the supports, of course. We had seen that a little while ago.
Yeah.
I feel like Criscata on this Kraken Slayer is going to be...
He is primed to pop off.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's going to be a bit more of a threat than Atlan at the moment. That... Also, his summoner choices, I think, have paid off a little bit more. Cool. Yeah, you take red buff. That's fine. You can do that when you're Syndra. You're allowed to grab them in the Pokeball and toss them wherever you want, even if they reset. Remember when you could do that to the Baron? Good times. Oh, Cannon Barrage.
That's an ult invested.
It's going to be the turn. Gemini actually gets turned away, but look at the low health bars. Criscata trying to lift back, and he's walking away from everything, but not the final shot from Atlan. And CFO go on the charge to take down Nestea. He throws down the cage, but Gemini says, I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
Yeah, and Leaky, I mean, he had the teleport, but didn't pull the trigger fast enough. And it was really nice engage call coming in from CFO. They're going to try and transition this into the Baron buff. We'll see if Hana can pull off a steal or stop the Baron attempt.
They see him coming a mile away, though. Unfortunately, that ward right on top and nothing doing. That will be Baron, and CTBC Flying Oyster gonna feel pretty happy about that. They do lose a tower, I believe, that Leaky just took down, but we'll take that trade.
Damage in that last fight. Okay, damage graphs coming out, and I mean...
Gangplank online.
Yeah, that Gangplank doing a lot of damage. A lot of that coming in from the ultimate, of course. Hitting 3 members, and doing a lot of work with that.
Yeah,
but
this is where that damage comes in.
Yeah, the slow that comes out creates enough there for them to continue to chase after. And here's the thing, they do expend a lot of resources to make this play happen. So while DCG carries are also summonerless, the side of CFO force I mean, that's pretty much one of the few tools they have to force the fight. So thankfully Koala does have his flash back up now, so look for him to be the main playmaker. And now Koala does have a decent flank, but he could get caught out.
Yeah, Leaky's on top of a Mega Narbar, almost full.
Ooh,
Gemini reveals himself. I feel like Koala's cut off here, but Rest is also there. This is a bit of a wonky situation. I think Rest is going to get turned on. Let's see if he can actually hold on. Huge ultimate to cut down some health bars, and now Gemini's come to the rescue. Oh man, this game really just turns on a knife's edge.
Oh, this is so damn exciting. Both teams are playing really well and trying to take advantages of the openings that they are being given. Now, Nestea really making a point to secure this blue buff. I think, okay, so Kristana actually gets it, which is a little bit unfortunate for Nestea, but at the same time, you like the extra mana. Ooh, okay,
Leaky.
this could be a big
No
pick.
Megadar!
That is a massive pick.
Yeah, that's going to turn into Hextech Drake really quickly right there. Unfortunate for Leaky, he had run out of Narbar and he stepped just a toe out of line. So, optimistic, Jinx Rocket Steel. We haven't really seen those paying off a whole lot, but timing just not there. And CFO go up to Soul Point. The next 5 minutes are going to turn quite a lot for this game.
That will be incredibly tense for this next fight, which will either happen around the Baron buff, or it's going to happen around this Dragon Soul. So, okay, spawning out Koala. Woody goes ahead, just ground pounds him and says, "See you later."
He's still able to roam through, but CFO definitely flexing at the moment. Going to let this slow push with the Baron-empowered minions take over and try to open up more gold on the map, try to open up more of the DCG jungle. Already kind of owned it at the moment as they have the priority. Working on this Baron power play. They'd love to break into the base, but it's not as simple as all that, and DCG can still fight back.
Yeah, and the big thing here is now Leaky, when he's forced in a position to group up with the team, he's put in a really difficult spot, right? Because all of a sudden he's lost a lot of the effectiveness coming in from your hull breaker item. Yes, it is incredibly stat efficient when you're sitting on a side lane by yourself, but the opposite is true. When you are grouped up with your team, you lose a lot of stats, and now they're going for yet another pick attempt onto Rest. He kicks him towards his team, but the follow-up's not quite there.
Oh, look at that damage!
Hana could be dead.
Hana walks away, but he needs to have some help from Leaky and Woody. And all this damage, they have to spend so much to get him. Oh boy, but they do in the end.
They are able to get the pick. It's not going to turn into anything. It's really just a moment of frustration, you might say, coming in from DCG.
Stops the push,
because
I guess.
This gangplank has been a pain in their behind when it comes to starting some of these fights because of the zone control provided by that ultimate. And while Rest has died 4 times, he's been a very critical part in being in CFO able to set up these fights.
Yeah, I mean, you can't let that scoreline fool you, right? Rest has certainly been one of the strongest members of this team, and he's received a consummate amount of Deep Cross's attention, and that's one of the reasons he's 2-4. But Gangplank definitely dishing the serious damage now. Everyone from Deep Cross getting in position. It's going to be a Baron in a minute 10, and then a minute after that, it is Soul Point for CFO.
And one of the things, of course, we do have to keep track of, it's been a little bit late, 27 minutes into the game, but we do need to keep track of those Nestea stacks. Last it showed, it was 175. That's fairly low stacks, considering the time of the game. You're looking at about 10 a minute. So you would be expecting about, well, 270-ish there. So he is very far when it comes to getting things stacked up here. He's not going to have that same pop to him, especially when you look at his build going for the Zania second. It's a very much utility focused build here. And that means these baby cages have to land on multiple members and have to be precise.
It also means that the heavy lifting is going to have to be done even more by Cryscata right now, and he has been targeted out quite a bit. They have the setup to let him dish out massive damage, but he's still only a 2-item Jinx. We need to see this Infinity Edge come in, and he's just not at the same level that Atlan is at the moment. So DCG, they need to buy time. They also need to finish a fight, but they're running out of it because there is Baron on the Rift. There is going to be another Hextech Drake. There's really no way to handshake this right now because CFO are forcing the issue.
Yeah, only sitting on 10.5k gold for Cryscata. It's going to be a little bit... he's getting close to that Infinity Edge, but not quite there.
Hana. Yeah, nowhere to go, and that means no smite fight. That also opens the floodgates. Goodbye, Cryscata. Rest is taking so much of this right now. Double kill comes in as Mission evaporates Woody. Gemini takes down Nestea. And yeah, Leaky knows. Wave the white flag. It feels over.
That is indeed the game right then and there. Leaky tagged by the barrel as well. That means Rest is going to have the ability to run him down. Gets yet another slow, but the objective isn't the Gnar, it's the Nexus as they turn their attention towards that Nexus. So you can see Rest, the absolute superstar of these fights, even though the KDA does not show it. That's going to be them being able to finish off the game. They're going to try one last-ditch attempt, but it's too little, too late.
CTBC Flying Oyster come away with their 6th victory and stand alone atop the PCS as the only remaining undefeated team. Who can take them down? So far, the answer is no one.
And as much as you'd like to outthink the other team, when the other team has good enough brains themselves, not necessarily geniuses, but then they have the muscle to just outfight you in those key moments, that really is what makes the difference. And in this game, it was indeed the brawn that overcame the brains.
Absolutely. They were able to put DCG into the dirt off a couple of mistakes. And you know, all of the time spent to keep Rest down did not do enough. That gangplank was ridiculous. Nestea was never able to get up to the damage level he needed. Mission was finally unleashed on those ultimates, on the Scatter the Weeks. They comboed up well. The Aphelios of Atlan did work. Everything it needed to do, everything that CTBC needed, they got. It just took them a little longer. I do think this was probably the game they were challenged the most, and that is a credit to what Deep Cross Gaming were able to accomplish. But it just seems like there is just the slightest of gaps in some of the skill level here that allowed the Brawn to overcome the brains.
Yeah, and I mean, the side of DCG, CFO, they were really able to identify the key target in these fights, and that was Cryscata. Because you look at the build coming in from the Veigar, he didn't have a high damage build, so it wasn't necessary for them to jump onto him, and he was also behind in stacks. So all those things combined meant that there was one target that you were concerned about, and that was the Jinx in the hands of Cryscata, and he was really pressured in these fights, and he just couldn't survive and endure through all that.
To top it off, too, I think this Gnar pick from Leaky, well, it obviously got set behind very early. They turned that around, a little bit of help from Hana. Once he was pulled from the side lanes, he just wasn't as effective. I mean, Hullbreaker's a great item. We talk about it a lot. Everybody loves it. Everyone in the top lane, absolutely. But yeah, it doesn't offer you the same level of stats for the 5v5. Gnar is obviously a very situational 5v5. We saw the Gnar trap a lot last season when teams were picking it. And then you kind of had to be perfect in the engages. Otherwise, you just weren't very useful. And this is the downside of a champion like that, is that you can fall really far behind and not get enough done in those team fights. On the opposite side, Rest just, I mean, he kind of carried the day. You're right, the KDA didn't show it. That's not the whole story. Rest was monumental, demanding so much of DCG's attention.
Yeah, and I mean, to sum it up, PCS NAR strikes again. So,
yep.
I mean, it was clear that DCG wanted to take advantage of a Hullbreaker top laner, but when your Hullbreaker top laner, with those extra Hullbreaker stats from being by himself, loses a 1v1 to a Gangplank, you know the Gangplank is just a trillion times better as a champion, and it just becomes unplayable from a game perspective because you can't put that Gnar in a side lane and be like, you have Hullbreaker, you destroy turrets by yourself. Nope, that's not the case.
Yeah, and it did feel like Deep Cross at that point kind of ran out of their preferred number of options, and they were kind of forced into these 5v5s that was always going to get a bit away from them. They had late game potential with the Jinx pop-off, but then Atlan started to pull ahead, and you did start to see a little bit of the experience gap between the rookie AD carry and the more experienced one. Again, it feels almost unfair to keep calling Atlan the weak point of this team, because it's just by default. He's still really good, and he's exceeded expectations. It's just that the rest of his team is absolutely stacked with talent. And this is what's so scary about CTBC, is that they just don't have a bad player in any role.
Yeah, this is what makes CFO such a scary roster to deal with, right? They have so much firepower up and down the line. Yes, you still have to say that the bot lane should be the focus from any team. But I think DCG identified their win conditions in that you want to slow down the solo laners first, because they have the opportunity to take over the game. And then when it comes to these team fights, that's when you can deal with Atlan on this Aphelios pick, which is low range into, you would say, the better range coming in from DCG. But you get to see the damage charts. There's not a lot coming in from the back line of DCG. Nestea having a really underwhelming performance this time around, barely out damaging his support, by the way.
He was able to stay alive, and I will give him that credit, which is not easy to do against Mission, especially on a damage-dealing champion like Syndra. But that's the only credit I'll give him. I think this was... It feels harsh to say, this was Nestea's worst performance so far, and Rest wins the MVP on Gangplank. Absolutely heard that one. 35% of the team's damage on the Gangplank. Everybody else get out of here. The Pirates coming to town.
I was really concerned that they would, over-index into the KDA to factor in for the MVP. So I'm really happy that Rest does get recognized for his performance. He got shut down a little bit during the early game, but he drew so much attention that also allowed this Aphelios to farm up and be that potential pop-off in the later portions of the game. But then these Gangplank ultimates were just really... absolutely fight deciding. Right when it came down, it was like, oh, fight's over, because you have no way out, and it just makes the rest of the fight easy as can be.
Well, and it was just so much shred, right? Like the issue that the DCG comp had is that they didn't really have like true tankiness, right? Like Alistar was their biggest tank, because the Gnar is only situationally tanky, and everybody else kind of getting shredded down. The Lee Sin could try and withstand it, but at this point, if you're Hana, you were just looking for like the kick whenever you could. Take a look at today's results, and I don't think we see too many surprises there. Impunity continuing to grow and extend their game run to 2 wins right now. Beyond Gaming also taking the win at the beginning of the day, but falling short against a very clean-looking J team, at least most of the time. PSG taking that Meta Falcon team, and then our match of the week, man, CFO looking so good. Taking a look at our standings, and now the picture starts to get a little clearer.
Yeah, we can see that our standings have separated into our top 5 and bottom of 5 here. There's still plenty of games to be played. I think we'll have a clearer picture after the first round robin, because of the fact that PSG, while they are 5-1, again, they've played against literally the bottom 6 teams. That's been their entire schedule, which means this next 3 games are going to be so damn exciting, Pyra, because they are up against the top of the table. That's the real test. is this PSG Talon team ready?
That is the question, and we will find out, because coming up next week, at the end of the day, they'll face off against J-Team that did away with their rivals Beyond Gaming. That's the game I'm keeping my eye on. I want to know, Nightstar, is there any other one you're watching out for here?
I mean, I think for the most part, there's definitely a clear seeding difference when it comes to these teams or these matchups. Perhaps a little bit of spice could come out from the Impunity DCG game, since Impunity have been performing better, and DCG are showing flaws. If it comes down to expecting a lot of damage coming in from your mid laner, maybe that's an area they could try and exploit, because Nestea in that last game struggled to do damage.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think that is one potential in there, but Impunity are going to have a mountain to climb. Frank, of course, are going to try to do the same against the side of Beyond Gaming, but definitely looking forward to that PSG J-Team matchup. But man, it has been a week of games, jam-packed schedule to make up for some shorter weeks that we had, or a shorter game session that we had in week number 1. But I mean, that's about it. We had What a Banger to close us out on. I'm still buzzing over that one, Nightstar. It was just on a knife's edge the whole way, but what a great couple of weeks we've had here in the PCS. It is good to be back, and it is good to be seeing the new blood and the new organizations putting their stamp on all of this. But that is all the time we got. So, on behalf of the PCS, the broadcast partners, everybody, myself, Pyrotechnics and Nightstar, Clement, Hysterics, all of us, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Have a wonderful evening.